Long before hoses, drip lines and storage tanks, indigenous farmers faced droughts that lasted not weeks but seasons. Their survival did not depend on finding more water. It depended on trapping every drop that already fell. Across Africa, the Americas and parts of Asia, one deceptively simple solution kept gardens productive when surrounding land turned to dust. This was the indigenous water trap, a system so effective that modern drought-stricken gardens still struggle to match it. This guide explains how it worked, why it succeeded where modern methods fail, and how it can be applied today without expensive tools or infrastructure. How indigenous farmers discovered that water loss mattered more than water supply. Early agricultural societies learned quickly that drought was not defined by lack of rain alone. Water vanished through runoff, evaporation, and compacted soil faster than plants could use it. Indigenous farmers observed that even small rains could sustain crops if water stayed where it landed. From this understanding emerged water traps, deliberately shaped basins and pits designed to stop water from escaping. Known by different names, such as Zai pits in West Africa, planting basins among Pueblo peoples, and micro-catchments elsewhere, the principle remains identical. Each plant grows inside a shallow depression rather than on flat or raised ground. Rainwater flows inward, not away. Nutrients concentrate instead of leaching out. Why this system kept gardens alive during multi-year droughts? During drought, rainfall becomes infrequent but intense. Flat soil sheds water rapidly. The indigenous water trap converts brief storms into stored moisture. Water infiltrates slowly, penetrating deeper into the soil profile where evaporation cannot reach it. Roots grow downward, following moisture instead of spreading shallowly. Plants become drought-hardened rather than drought-stressed. How soil fertility improves naturally inside water traps. Water traps accumulate organic debris, dust, and animal matter carried by wind and runoff. Over time, this creates fertile microenvironments even in degraded soils. Microbial activity increases because moisture remains stable. In regions where conventional farming failed completely, crops planted in water traps continued producing food. These water traps, you know, were constructed with remarkable precision, not just guesswork. Instead of marking out rows, construction began by carefully identifying the exact planting points. Each trap was dug anywhere from 6 to 12 inches deep and made wide enough to capture runoff, just enough to hold water without actually flooding the plant. The soil that was excavated, well, it was thoughtfully placed downhill, forming a small lip to slow any escaping water. Before planting, organic matter like compost, manure, or even crop residue was added right into the pit. This step really helped enrich the soil and retain moisture for the plants. What's truly fascinating is that this method required no levelling and no permanent structures at all. Indigenous farmers ingeniously adapted the system to suit different landscapes. On slopes, for instance, water traps were staggered to intercept the downhill flow of water. On flat land, they were arranged in tidy grids. And in sandy soils, the pits were dug deeper to prevent water from draining away too quickly. In clay soils, they were shallower to avoid waterlogging. The system adapted to land rather than forcing land to adapt to it. Why modern gardens lose water faster than indigenous systems ever did? Raised beds, tilled soil and exposed surfaces accelerate evaporation. Irrigation often delivers water faster than soil can absorb, causing runoff and waste. The indigenous water trap avoids all of these failures by slowing water at the surface and encouraging deep absorption. So gardeners today can, apply this ancient method step by step. Begin by observing how water moves across your garden during rain. Next, identify low points and flow paths. Dig shallow basins where you plan to plant, making sure to orient them to catch runoff rather than block it. Then add organic material into each basin, mixing it lightly with the native soil. Finally, plant directly in the centre. After rainfall, take note of how long moisture remains compared to the surrounding soil. Adjust the basin size as needed. This method works equally well for vegetables, fruit trees and perennial herbs. Now, here's the thing. This system can really reduce watering frequency quite dramatically. Gardeners who use water traps often find they can cut their watering by half, or sometimes even more. Moisture stays available deeper in the soil profile, which means plants are able to survive much longer between rains or irrigation cycles. In periods of extreme heat, these basins actually become refuges for your plants, rather than stress points, which is honestly quite remarkable. You might be wondering why this knowledge nearly disappeared, even though it was so effective. Well, industrial agriculture started to favour uniform surfaces and mechanized planting. Small-scale, plant-centred systems were dismissed as inefficient, which is a real shame, if you ask me. The result was dependency on infrastructure rather than resilience. Indigenous methods survived only where tradition outlasted modernization. So, why does rediscovering this water trap really matter now? Well, as drought becomes more common and, water costs keep rising, systems that can function without any external inputs are becoming relevant again. This water trap, it doesn't fight nature. No, it actually cooperates with it. It's not experimental at all. In fact, it's a system that's been proven across centuries and continents. That's exactly why, honestly, serious gardeners and historians should start taking this method seriously again. This system, after all, sustained food production under conditions much harsher than most modern gardens will ever face. It deserves our respect, not simply as folklore, but as engineering that's been refined by survival itself. If you value time-tested knowledge that, quite frankly, still outperforms many modern solutions, do subscribe to Botanical Bliss and share this guide with others who believe, as I do, that the future of gardening may well depend on lessons from the past.